Hey y'all! Welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Sarah. This is Coco. She snores through every video, every single one. Oh, you know what? If you're new here, skip on ahead to the stories. Unless you want to hear how stupid I am, then feel free. So, I was talking to Gavin. Gavin's my husband. And I was trying to plan my filming schedule out. I have so many scripts already written, ready to go. I've got all the pictures, all the stock footage, mute, everything just ready. I just have to film it. Normally when I film, I'm like full glam, eyelashes, because I love makeup. Hair, like freshly done. I told Gavin, I said, if I wash my hair this day, I can film on this day. That way I can do my makeup, my hair. Saying it out loud made me realize y'all do not give a shit what I look like on this camera. Y'all don't care. I'm the one with the insecurities thinking y'all care what the hell I look like. I could be a damn bridge troll reading y'all these stories that I'm about to read. Y'all wouldn't care. Y'all had to be scared. So, like, I guess just speaking it out loud, it just made me realize how utterly ridiculous and insecure that thought process was. Oh, what? They don't care? They do not care what you look like. Night shift scary stories today. I work the front gate at a military base. Where I'm stationed, the night shift is always super boring and very quiet. One night, a dark green old Ford Bronco rolled up. When I stepped out of the guard shack, the car did a 180 and left. This happened like 2 or 3 times until I was finally able to get the license plate number. I called my supervisor and asked him to run the plate number for me. I heard him typing on his computer, and then he asked me if I was sure about the plate number. I told him I'm 100% certain. He said that is totally impossible because the plate number I gave him was registered to a vehicle which had a crash report attached to it. The crash report described the exact same vehicle and plate number that I had seen. The crash report stated the driver was a fatality and the vehicle was totaled. That shit made me want to switch to days. Yeah. I worked in a mine in northern Ontario. There was a death on the 4200 level a couple years previous to the incident I'm about to tell you. It was a normal day underground like any other. 4200 level was big. The drifts were 6 by 6 feet, but go on for kilometers in every direction. It was around midnight when we saw the mine rescue team with security rushing down the drift. Naturally, we all dropped what we were doing and followed them to see if we could help. We arrived to find a guy who was as pale as a ghost. He didn't look hurt, but he was shaking uncontrollably. Mine rescue tried to approach him, but he wouldn't let them get close to him. He would scream, and not just any scream. It was a horrifyingly terrible scream. It was like he was so consumed with fear. His scream had a tone to it that you could never imagine would come from a human being. Eventually, he stopped screaming and just sat there, awake but not responsive. By that time, it was like 3:30 in the morning, and our shift was over. We couldn't just leave him down there, though. We managed to get him on a stretcher so we could carry him out. On our way out, he kept repeating, "The devil's on 42." Over and over again, "The devil's on 42." About 2 years later, another incident report was read to us. The exact same thing, the exact same spot, but a different person. I don't believe they saw the devil, but it's always in the back of my mind when I'm on 42. My ass wouldn't be on 42. Whoo! I can't say for certain that I believe in ghosts, but if I had a paranormal story to tell, it would be this one. I work in one of the major emergency rooms in my city as a CNA. That's a certified nursing assistant. One of my duties is post-mortem care, which involves removing any tubes, wires, monitors, etc. from the deceased patient, giving them a bed bath, removing any valuables from the body to give to the family, and putting them in a clean gown. One night, around 2 a.m., I was called to the room of an older patient who had passed away while in our care. The family had finished saying their goodbyes and were leaving the room, so I went in to start my task. I like to talk to the people I'm working on, even though they have passed away, because I still consider them to be my patient. I also do it because it puts me at ease and shows them respect. I explain to them what I'm doing and talk them through every part of the process. As I was about to start the bed bath, I suddenly had an intense feeling of being watched. I then felt somebody place a hand on my shoulder, and I heard a man's voice say, "Thank you." The hand remained on my shoulder for a long minute while I stood shaken from being terrified of whatever was happening. As suddenly as it started, it stopped, and the room felt empty and harmless. My fear left me completely. There were no other nurses or any staff in the area at the time, just me. I like to believe that the patient I was providing care for was appreciative of my explanations and continuing to talk to them as though they were still alive. I like that. I think that's exactly what it was. Showing the respect, yeah, I like that. I agree with you. I think they were appreciative of that. This story is not about me, but about my best friend. He used to work as a night custodian at an elementary school. The building was old, built around 1940. My friend was the third shift guy, so he took over from the second shift guy at 9 p.m. He was basically there to mop the floors, make sure nobody broke in, and just tidy up. If he got all of his stuff done, he was free to do whatever he wanted. Usually, after he finished doing his work, he'd go hang out in an office because there was a small TV he could watch. He said things started off innocently enough, lights turning on in classrooms where he knew they had been off previously, cabinets and doors opening and closing on their own. He didn't pay much attention to it at first. He was kind of on the fence as to whether or not he believed in the paranormal, so he just shrugged it off as a coincidence when odd things would happen. At first, he'd go and check the noises out. Sometimes he would creep around and try to catch people in the act, just in case, there was a way in that he didn't know about. After a month or so, he gave up looking and just learned to ignore the weird stuff that was going on. When he asked his boss about it, his boss just changed the subject and would never give him a straight answer. During the following months, things got progressively worse. Doors no longer closed on their own, they slammed shut. He heard kids playing, sometimes he'd hear kids screaming, he'd find trash cans turned upside down, objects were thrown at him when he knew without a doubt he was alone. He thought about quitting, but he was making good money for being nearly fresh out of high school. He also needed the money for family stuff, so he went and stuck with it. It got to the point where he would clock in, rush through whatever he had to do for the night, and then go and sit in that office that had the TV. He set the office up to where his chair was facing the door so he'd be able to see the entire office, his back to the wall so nobody can be behind him, and he can see everything in front of him, and nobody could sneak up on him unnoticed. He would sit there all night until the morning crew came in at 6 a.m. He didn't want to admit he was scared shitless of being alone in school at night. He tried to tough it out by making lame excuses for things that kept happening. The last straw for him was the night he was in the office watching TV when something grabbed the chair he was sitting in from behind him and flipped him over. There was obviously nobody in the office with him and no way for anybody to have gotten in without him seeing them because of the way he had arranged the furniture. He picked up the office phone, called and woke up his boss to tell him that he was quitting and he would return the keys to him in the morning. He became a believer in the paranormal that very day. Years later, he found out from somebody who had done research on the history of the school that there used to be a pool inside the building. After more than 10 kids drowned, the administration finally decided to expand the building. They filled the pool in with concrete and built the expansion on top of it. 10 kids drowned? It took 10 of them? Can we go back to where something grabbed his chair from behind and flipped it over? Oh, no. No. Absolutely not. It was a demon. Y'all know it was. While working at the psych ward, every good story begins with while working at the psych ward. Maybe not good, but every interesting. While working at the psych ward, every night around 2 a.m., there'd be the sound of someone running down the main service hallway, followed by the door at the end slamming shut. One time, I was determined to keep a close eye on the area, but of course, when I was distracted for just a few seconds, the footsteps began. However, when I got to the area, there was literally nothing. Nothing at all. According to one of the managers, this had been happening for several years, always at the same time, every night. He said most of the staff believed it was a ghost of one of the deceased patients. I had another experience that happened at the same facility. If you want to read this one too, it's a quick one. Of course I want to read it to y'all. That's why I asked y'all to submit. Submit. It means you won't. I'll read them. So, it was at night, of course, and everyone was doing their normal work stuff when suddenly the hour hands on every single one of the battery-powered wall clocks on the unit simultaneously spun around several times. That shit was extremely freaky, and everybody was on edge for the remainder of the shift. Can you imagine? Can you imagine just doing your work and all of a sudden just all the clocks all at the same time just No ma'am. No ma'am. Y'all already know your girl would have been gone. A lab building where I used to work was the site of a murder unaliving, which happened while I was there. It was absolutely awful and sad. We didn't have shifts per se, but I had to work late one night autoclaving equipment for the next day's experiments. Also, I should mention, I was alone in the building during the incident I'm going to tell you about. Everybody else had left for the night. The autoclave room is right next to the lab where the murder unaliving had taken place. After I started the first load of equipment in the autoclave, I was about to leave the room when I heard a huge crash outside. I immediately swung the door open and saw all the contents of a table in the hallway had been pushed to the floor. Water bottles, a stapler, papers, pens, etc. Since I was right by the door at the time, I would have seen and heard if there was somebody there running away. It was against protocol to leave things in the autoclave overnight, so I had to stay an hour and a half waiting for them to be done so I could remove them. But nothing else happened, thankfully. I did leave the stuff on the floor, though, because I didn't want any weird shit happening again. Yeah, I bet that was the longest hour and a half of their life. I worked closing shift at a movie theater. I worked upstairs where the projectors were to make sure the movies ran smoothly. I sat in a booth where I could monitor the projectors, which were located in a line down a long corridor. After the last showing of a movie, my job was to turn the lights off to that particular theater and power down that particular projector. I'd cover the projectors to protect them from dust. The first few projectors weren't bad because the lights from the other projectors were still lit for the theaters whose movies had not finished playing. But as you shut off each one, the corridor gets darker and darker and darker, and that little viewing window into each individual theater is pitch ass black. When the projectors are running, they create a dull, steady noise of the kind that you just kind of tune out like white noise. Once the movies are finished playing for the night, the sound of the projectors is gone, replaced by absolute deafening silence. Basically, you're left with just the light at the end of each corridor and quiet stillness. It's creepy enough as it is what I'm trying to say. One night, I was throwing the cover over one of the projectors and I happened to glance at the viewing window across from me. I swear to you, I saw a face. A little boy's face that was white as a sheet. I know what I saw, damn it. I want to think there's an explanation for it and that there was nothing paranormal about it, but there was absolutely, without a doubt, a face in that window, and it scared the shit out of me. It made an already unsettling environment that much more terrifying the rest of the time I worked there. Also, to provide more context, inside of the actual theater, the windows are no less than 8 to 10 feet above the seats in the back row. So if somebody was trying to play a prank on me, they would need a ladder to reach the window. But even then, they'd have nowhere to set the ladder. Yeah, that's creepy. Another psychiatric hospital one. I work in a huge, old as hell psychiatric hospital. One night, I was pulled upstairs to work on the detox unit halfway through my shift. Someone on staff has to go room to room and check on all the patients every 15 minutes to make sure they're breathing, not in distress, etc. I'd just gotten on the unit and wasn't sure yet which rooms were occupied. I walked by and checked all of them. One room had the bedroom lights off, but the bathroom lights were on and the bathroom door was cracked open just slightly. I knocked and grabbed the doorknob to open the door. Something yanked the door from me and slammed it shut. I heard banging on the bathroom wall like somebody was punching it. I opened the door with no resistance this time, but nobody was in there. One of the techs who had been there for over 20 years said she knows that at least one patient died in that room. I'm not in the least bit superstitious or believing in supernatural forces, but fuck that floor. Girl, I heard that last sentence. Y'all already know. Before the job I have now, I did K-9 security for many years. I don't really believe in paranormal stuff, but I did get the heebie-jeebies a couple times. Me and my dog used to patrol one particular location a few nights a week. It was an old historical farmhouse. From the main road, there was about a kilometer walk down a beat-up old dirt road that had woods on each side. It was more of a pathway than a road. People always talked about it being haunted, but like I said, I don't believe in that kind of thing. One night it was really dark out. I can't remember if it was overcast or if there was just no moon on that night, but it was pitch black. When we were about 2/3 of the way to the farmhouse, my dog starts acting weird. I can feel him getting tense through the leash and he's letting out low growls with each step we take. As I pass my flashlight back and forth, I can see his ears are twitching and his hackles are raised. Maybe 100 meters or so after I started noticing him wigging out, he sprints out in front of me, which he only does if he perceives a threat. He stays about 2 meters in front of me for a while and then just stops and starts growling at the darkness. I'm scanning with my flashlight, but I don't see anything. After years of working with Brutus, I have learned to trust him like I would never trust a human being. During one of my scans with the flashlight, I see about 6 sets of eyes reflecting my light in the woods. I am certain it was coyotes, but damned if I didn't get the shivers up and down my spine. Brutus and I retreated and went back to the car. I wrote it up as a clear patrol. Paranormal or not, I'm not letting my partner scrap it out with half a dozen ghost coyotes. I like that last sentence. I kind of acknowledged like it was a fucking demon coyotes. Good boy, Brutus. Good boy, Brutus. Dogs are the best. Dogs are the best. Hey, are you the best? Dogs are the best. Are you the best? So I was sleeping the best until you. She's so cute. I'm sorry, baby. There you go. I was so into it, I didn't realize we had come to the last one. If you enjoyed it, if you enjoyed the video, subscribe, like it, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Have a wonderful day, week, month, everything until I see you again. Bye.